So at the end of the day, like, that's the only reason I got that role, was because it sounded like a boy. And there were other people that really wanted that role that, you know, couldn't have it just for that reason. But there are shows that I've not even been allowed to audition for. There's shows that, like, I really wanted to audition for, but I never ever got the chance to audition for it. And I'd rather not say which, because then that will make people mad. But it's part of the process. You can't be upset about it. It's part of being an actor. And, like, you know, it's good to get your ego kicked around a little bit. I know actors pretend like they have these giant, huge egos, but the ones that usually act like they have the biggest egos are the ones that you can pop with a pin. Skin is sensitive as an onion. So yeah, but thanks for asking that question. A lot of people don't know how the audition process works. The weird thing is, after you're done, you only know if you got in it if you got in. They never call you and say, hey, thanks, but we went with somebody else. You just know that if you haven't heard in like 2 weeks, probably not in. And the funny thing is that sometimes backfires on you, because you audition for a character that maybe doesn't even turn up until like the 9th episode. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I guess I'm not in that. They're like, hey, can we book you for some time on, you know, this show that you thought you weren't in? And you're like, oh, yeah, sure. But yeah, that's how the audition process goes. It's kind of weird, but yeah. So does that answer your question? Yes. Okay. And there's someone behind you with a Pokemon shirt on.
Hi. Just quickly, have you ever worked with your brother, and if so, do you find it?
Oh my God, yeah, lots.
Yeah, and do you enjoy working with him?
I do. I love working with my brother. In fact, there's a really stupid thing that we did on the Ayres Brothers disc. It was an extra where we're fighting. My brother and I get along like two people that play practical jokes on people. Like, we get along like high school kids. We fight too, but we like never fight longer than like, you know, who stole the cookies or whatever. You know, like once it's over, it's over. Like, he's very into movies and I'm very into music, and like if we fight, it's over in 10 minutes. I go in my room and do music stuff, and I don't live with them anymore, but I live on an island. But which is awesome. But we never fight long. The coolest thing about working with my brother is he is always open to suggestion. He's a theater person. He's actually been on Broadway twice, and some people come out of the womb an athlete. My brother came out of the womb with like a top hat and a cane. My brother was made to be on the stage. And so we've done theater together since I was 7 years old. Like, my first professional theater production was The King and I when I was 7 years old with my brother. And we've worked together on stage all through our, you know, teenage years. And he's actually the person that got me back into stage acting. He cast a show that would... And it's funny because nobody knew how many of us would end up doing voiceover work. It was like Chris Patton, Monica Rial, Alison Summerall, Carly Mosier. There's 2 others that were in the show. But it was a show called Runaways, really dark stage play. But we all wanted to work on it. So I auditioned for my brother's show. My brother's like, wow, you haven't done theater in like 12 years. I was like, yeah, I love this show though. And so then I worked with Monica and Chris, and then when they started working at ADV and they were looking for somebody that sounded like a child, they're like, oh my God, you have to call this guy who works at this law firm. He sounds like a 12-year-old and he's in his 30s. They're like, you have to call his house right now. So my audition was actually just someone calling me a voicemail at the law firm. But then it was funny because my brother auditioned for ADV a long time ago, and he thought it was like theater. He just auditioned once, and since he didn't get it, he never even bothered to call back. And like a million different shows had been recorded since then. So I finally like called Paul and like put my brother on the phone. I was like, book an audition. And so my brother started working for ADV because the joke is that he dragged me back on the stage and I dragged him into the studio. And the cool thing is his background in musical theater, and this is something we can finally talk about because it's leaked and somebody else I think has picked it up and is about to run it. He was originally called in to direct a show called Mermaid Melodies, Pitchy Pitchy Pitch. Yeah, I know, right? We recorded that show and finished it, and then something weird happened with the rights and it got shelved and we weren't allowed to talk about it. And then, lo and behold, they were like, hey, there's this weird musical called Aikon Brothers. Do you want to work on it? And he's like, sounds weird to me. So, and we work really well together. Like, my brother and I trust him as a director. Like, I hated the way my character in Aikon Brothers sounded. I thought it sounded like Fred Flintstone. I thought it was stupid. And I was like, oh, this sounds like Foghorn Leghorn and the Flintstones. This is awful. This doesn't sound like anime at all. And he's like, but it's funny when you put it next to Chris Patton's prissy voice and Lucy's like total twangy country voice. It's really funny together. And it wasn't until I heard everybody together that I trusted. I was like, wow, that really does sound good. So it's funny because they made us get in this fight for this extra, and people actually think I was really being that big of a douche while we were recording. Like, something happens and I say the line wrong, he corrects me, and I'm like, whatever, it's your show. And I like act douchey. He goes, look, do I have to call Mom? I was like, you can use my phone, I don't care. Like, and people thought that was real, but because when they videotaped us, it was boring because we work well together. It's just like two guys working together. Like, hey, can we try this? Oh yeah, that works. Okay, next line. And so they're like, hey, can y'all like stage this fight? It was really stupid, but yeah, I love working with my brother. My brother's one of my best friends and a sickly talented performer. Like, he's really like. He plays like a big terrorist in the show Yuka the Negotiator, and I would have never believed that was my brother's voice in a million years. But we don't have any kind of rivalry between us because our voices are totally different. Like, I could have gotten super jealous of his role in Dragon Ball Z, for instance. He got cast as Frieza, which is awesome. Well, I got to sing the song, and I got to be the little fat toady Ginyu Force guy. So I'm totally fine with that. Like, I played the Cartman in the Ginyu Force. It's okay. So he totally is. That line where he freezes them and he throws the tree at them, and he actually says it's almost a Cartman line. He goes, "You bet." Oh wait, that's right. You can't move. And I was like, that's totally a Cartman line right there. But we don't have any rivalry at all, and we encourage each other. And like, I'm bummed that he's not here this weekend. He loves this convention. He told me to tell everybody hey. And but he's working. He's writing something now. In fact, he's the director on my new show. I keep forgetting I need to talk about my new shows. I just did a show called Night Raid 1931. You can actually get the first episode free on iTunes, where I play an adult. Wait, an adult. I play an adult. I play someone in their 20s. It's a cool show. It's like if Baccano was crossed with the X-Files. It's like, super cool. Like 1930s psychic detectives. Yeah, it's cool. The only thing, people are whining on iTunes because it does this Tarantino thing. That episode that's labeled 1 actually takes place after the 2 or before the 2, so it seems like all like Pulp Fiction-y when you first start. But the more you stick with it, it's a really neat show. And Lucy Christian is hysterical as the Chinese dumpling chef. That's awesome. He thought Lucy was going to be the lead, and Lucy came in and read for the dumpling chef and was just riotous. And he goes, I have to put her in this role. It's just too funny. So she's hysterical. If you watch the show for any reason other than to hear me play an adult, it's to hear Lucy be the ridiculous dumpling chef. And there's a big fat cat that I chase named Dumpling because it's cat that eats dumplings. So, but yeah. So.
And do you feel typecasted as a kid? And do you enjoy it, or is it does it get to you?
Only because it keeps you from playing roles that I would like to play. In fact, here's a weird one. When we did Nutty and Aikon Brothers, the producer of the show accused my brother of favoritism by putting me in the lead. And he goes, no, my brother's the only person that can sing this show. Because the guy that plays Hideki in the Japanese show is a Japanese pop singer. He's got a really high voice, but deceptively, much like Rod Stewart's voice, Rod Stewart's got that scratchy voice, which makes you think it's a real manly voice. Dude, he sings up in the stratosphere. He's got a real high voice. And that was the problem with Hideki. You had to have somebody that had that Wolfman Jack type voice, but somebody that could sing like super high tenor, almost alto lines. And so the original audition, we had to sing Rock This Town by the Stray Cats, which was really weird to do for an audition. I'm like, why am I singing the Stray Cats? And then when I did the audition, I did it not with the voice that we eventually ended up using. The producer came up to my brother. He's like, your little brother can't do this role. He's like, my little brother could totally do this role. He's like, little brother sounds like a kid. Chris goes, have you ever heard my brother hungover? Seriously? I heard him really early in the morning. He's like, he's got a voice that hurts to listen to. And he's like, he talking. And of course, this is at the height of always smoking and everything. So that boy like, Marco, get over here, you know, that like big voice. And it was cool because I got to sing in that voice, which you don't normally get to sing in a character voice, but he went to bat for me definitely on that because they always, at ADV and at Funimation, they always want me to play the little nerdy sidekick. Which I love it, and I love playing the little kid that gets his ass kicked all the time because it's not who I am in real life. So, like, Spike Spencer hates that. He's like, I hate Shinji, he's a wimp. I'm like, but you're an actor. Like, you don't have to be a wimp to play a wimp. I play a 16-year-old homicidal serial killer in Gans. That doesn't mean I am. That's just what I play in the show. I've never been the Pope either, but I can definitely cry like a baby and be the Pope in Trinity Blood. So, you know, that's one of those things. But you do get typecast and you don't like it. But Taliesin Jaffe, the director of Hellsing, and one of my really dear friends, he's also one of the directors of Beck, and he was also in Mr. Mom, the movie. He was the kid that lost his whoopee. So if you ever watch Mr. Mom, it's actually Taliesin Jaffe that loses his whoopee. And you see his butt in the show. The first day he was working at Funimation, they took that picture of his sudsy butt as they took him out of the bathtub, and it says, "Welcome, Taliesin." He's like, thanks guys, thanks a lot. But Taliesin said something really interesting because we were about to start auditioning for Beck, and they really were pushing me to audition for Negi. And at the time, there was a rule at Funimation that you couldn't have two leads at the same time, which, dude, if I have to pick, sorry Negima fans, between Beck and Negi, Beck. Like, in a heartbeat. Like, it's just too cool, the show, the music's too cool. And I just met the Japanese director, Osamu Kobayashi, so like, I just really wanted to work on Beck. And but they were really pushing me hard, and I told Taliesin, I was like, I go, why do I always have to play the little kid? And he's like, well, he goes, you know, being the solution to a problem has its blessing too. And so the fact is, there will never not be anime that has short, pointy-haired kids. And long after Aaron Dismuke's voice has changed, which it has now, I'll still have this voice. I've had this voice since I was a kid, so I'll always play little kids. And so it's not so bad, it's work. There's some jobs that are like, some shows that I've worked on, I'm like, oh, really? But, like my new show, my panty show, I'll talk about that too. It's called Heaven's Lost Property. I call it Heaven's Lost Panties. Like, I've never seen so many pairs of panties in one show. There's singing panties, there's flying panties. I make a robot out of panties that turns into a bicycle that then I ride. Later, I am a wrestler who does not have a mask, so he puts a pair of women's underwear over his face with the leg holes. He looks like this panty luchador. He calls himself Master Pants. There's actually pictures on my Facebook, people that were on my Facebook before it was full. There's this picture of me in the booth with like panties on my head. It's like just another day at work. Like, which is funny because a bunch of the old people that worked at the law firm got really offended at that picture, and the next day I wrote, Greg just realized that his job is in SFW. Like, my job is not safe for work. It's like, you know, I work in anime, it's nothing to put a pair of panties over my face to make the sound. Because like, this definitely sounds different than this. And so, like, just when we were doing Speed Grapper, I had this stick tied over my nose, so my nose always sounded weird. And like, so for Master Pants, pair of underwear over my face. Luckily they were clean and they were never used. They were a pair of panties that came with the box set for Shuffle. So it's a purple pair of panties that said God on the crotch of them. Ooh, what a thunk it. So, yeah.